It can't be argued that dialogue in film is an important character-building tool that has been utilized by directors since the beginning of cinema. Speech gives the audience a window to peer into the film, giving us an outlook on the plot and a feel for their cinematic world. However, when dialogue is removed momentarily, it alters our perception of the characters. Breaks of silence allows us to focus in on the frame, it makes us study the subjects, and allows us to key in on their expression and posture. We're going to be looking at moments in film where breaks of silence are meticulously used to invigorate storytelling and increase our bonds to the characters in the frame. Up is one of Pixar's most recognizable pieces of work. And whether you like the film or not, you have to admit that it does a great job at funneling emotion and making you sympathize with Carl, the old man. But what audiences don't notice is that it expertly uses silence to put more weight on the emotional tone of the film. The best example of this is in the first scene, where we see Carl and Ellie's romantic prologue. The scene remains absolutely silent from the beginning to the end of the montage. There is an absence of a narrator. But by not having someone tell us the story, it makes us as an audience more curious and made us more intrigued to piece together the story by ourselves. Silence in this scene works perfectly, making us more attentive to the screen. The film Drive is another example of a film that doesn't rely on dialogue to tell the story. The film is instead led by its aesthetics and its camera work. However, the elevator scene in Drive uses the absence of dialogue to masterfully create a gorgeous scene. In this scene, Driver takes notice of a hitman in the elevator with him and Irene. There is no dialogue at all. As the tension rises and rises, Driver grabs hold of Irene and kisses her. Then ambient noise rushes into play, but there is still no dialogue. And finally, after he lets go of Irene, he breaks the ambiance and beats the shit out of the hitman in the elevator. Not a single word is spoken in this 3-minute scene, and not only does it use the absence of dialogue to increase the tension between a Driver and the hitman, but it also makes the kiss between Driver and Irene much more surreal and intimate. Drive is a great film, and it uses the lack of dialogue to really help tell the story. Finally, we are met with the king of silent cinema, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like Drive, the whole film lacks a whole lot of dialogue, but that definitely doesn't inhibit it from telling a story. We're going to look at the beginning of the film, where the first 20 minutes of this film has zero dialogue in it. Not one word is spoken at all. We see the story through the actions shown in the frame, not by someone narrating it. And as an audience, the absence of a narrator or dialogue allows us to focus in on what is in front of us. We have to always be alert and attentive to understand the film. By making the first 20 minutes silent, Kubrick has already caught our attention. The silence at the beginning makes us interested in the film right from the start, instead of slowly developing an interest over time. Silence in film is important. It takes us out of our comfort zone and makes us as an audience focus on what the director is showing us on screen. Silence can be a powerful technique that can show more emotion than any line of dialogue. A skill that, when done right, can totally isolate the audience, taking them away from their seats and bringing them into the frame itself.